Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode on my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be answering some of the common questions that have been asked about my scent detection dog training series. Just like all my videos, you can find your question in the description below and jump to that section in the video. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm a bit unclear on some of the steps of this video. Why are you starting with a cinder block and moving on to a bucket and then a box? Is it just to get the dog accustomed to sticking their nose into different things? Yes, that's exactly right. When I'm doing scent detection training, I like to use different containers because it helps my dog become more generalized to the training. So it's going to make it easier when we transfer the training over to real life scenarios. I have a 6-month-old Malinois who is very eager to learn. I tried doing the first step by introducing the box, but she was so focused on me she wouldn't stick her nose into the box. Any suggestions? When you're doing the fix shaping exercise, the idea is to get your dog to do the behavior without helping them with a physical cue. However, this could be a difficult step for a lot of dogs. When we're first teaching it, if the dog doesn't naturally go place their nose into the container, if they don't investigate it, then we can help them out by maybe pointing to the container, or you can even place food inside of the container to entice your dog to place their nose into it and then get the primary reinforcer for doing the behavior. Some dogs will do it naturally, instinctively, just like Arih did in the video. Some dogs might need a little bit more guidance, and that's completely okay to do during this step to get your dog to do the behavior. What if you have a dog that doesn't get excited over fetch? Could you try a different way? This is going to be for the second step in my scent detection dog training series. If your dog doesn't like toys, then you could skip this step. Or if your dog prefers a different toy, then you can play with them with a different toy. So for example, let's say your dog really enjoys those doggy stuffed animals that people buy from the pet store. If your dog likes that, you can place the scent on it and simply play with that with your dog during the field search exercise. And then when you're ready to hide it into the field, the dog's going to look for that toy, the toy that they enjoy. And when they find it, they're associating the smell with the primary reinforcer. Or you can simply skip this step and go to the third step in my scent detection dog training series. Is it the same process you would use to teach search and rescue? Scent detection training, tracking for competitive obedience, search and rescue, they're all going to have a different training process, even though the dog is using their nose. When I've trained search and rescue, I treat it like hide and seek. What I do is I will have somebody hold my dog, and then I will run away from my dog, teasing my dog with a toy, and then I will hide behind a tree or something pretty close by, maybe 30 yards or so, give or take. And then once I hide behind the tree, then my helper will release the dog, my dog will run to where they saw me last, and then if they don't find me right away, they will instinctively use their nose. And as they become better at it and more confident, we simply increase the distance. The dog will always run to where they last saw you, and then they will instinctively use their nose. And like I said, we continue the distance, and then we continue the time duration from when we take off to when the dog is released. They must have a high level of perseverance to continue the search even if they don't find the person right away. And that perseverance will increase as long as the dog has done it multiple times before with success. That's why we increase the distance and the time over time as the dog gets better at the training exercise. I am going to be putting up a series on search and rescue, so you guys will be able to see that firsthand. How would you deal with a dog that gets so excited to get a tennis ball that they will run through a wall to get it? This is great. If I have a dog that is really motivated for a toy, that's going to actually make it easier for me to use that tool as a motivating factor to get my dog to do the behavior. This is what competitive dog trainers look for. They look for the dog that's willing to eat your hand off to get the food, that will do anything to get the toy that you have. The more the dog wants what you have, the easier it is to get them to perform the behaviors. So if I have a dog that has really high toy drive, then first I still want to do my obedience. Arih, for example, has really high toy drive, and when I'm teaching the behaviors, I'm using food. And then I want to make sure I can have control of the dog when I'm playing fetch or I'm using a toy during my obedience training. That means I want to make sure I can teach my dog an out command, a reliable out command, so when I'm working with them, I can reward them with the toy. Once I'm done allowing them to play with the toy, I could tell them to out, put it back in my pocket or my vest, and go right back into training. If you don't have a good out yet, then you wouldn't want to use toys in your obedience training because you're going to be spending so much time trying to get the dog just to release the ball so you can go back into training. And if that is the case, then check out my video on how to teach a dog out. And once you have that out, then you can start using it in this training or in this step in the scent detection series, and you should be able to get some really nice results. Do you use dowels with Arih to practice scent detection? I noticed you touched the ball with your hand at the end of the video. Will that affect the scent the next time you use the balls to practice? I notice when trainers use dowels, each one numbered, it's their own scent that they put on one dowel and the rest is handled with tongs. What you're describing is what they do in a few different competitive sports, but the one that I'm familiar with is the AKC utility routine. That's the top level that they do in the AKC obedience, and there's a bunch of different exercises within that obedience routine. One is the scented retrieve, where they will place a bunch of dowels out, I believe 8 or something like that, and you'll have one in your pocket. You'll hand that to the evaluator or the judge. They will place it in the pile of all the other dowels. You'll be facing the opposite way, so you or the dog will not see the dowel with the odor on it that should have your odor on it. Then you have to turn around and send your dog to retrieve that dowel. And if they retrieve any of the other ones, then they fail. You have a process that you have to do in order to get the dog to learn this. There's different ways of teaching this. The way that I taught this, because I did the AKC utility routine, I didn't do it through the AKC. It was one of my requirements when going through the Tom Rose School Master Course. And I had 2 dowels. One had my odor, the other one did not. The one that did not have the odor, I had a string attached to it, and that string was attached to a back tie to prevent my dog from being able to retrieve it. Once I had a really good retrieve command on my dog, I would send my dog to go retrieve the dowel that had my odor. And if my dog grabbed the one that did not have the odor, I would use leash pressure to bring my dog back, and it would slip out of my dog's mouth. So my dog would be unable to retrieve the one that did not have my odor. And then when my dog picked up the one that had my odor, I would praise her, and then when she would finish the exercise, then we would do it again. Once it got to the point where my dog was no longer grabbing the dowel that did not have my odor, then I would add a 3rd dowel. Both of those would be back tied to prevent her from bringing them to me, and the one that had my odor on it would not be back tied. So then if she grabbed the wrong one, again, I would pull her towards me, and if it was the wrong one, it was back tied, it would slip out of her mouth, and I would recommand the retrieve. So then she would go back, and when she grabbed the one that had my scent on it, the correct one, then she was able to bring that to me. And again, as your dog gets better with that, you start to increase, or you start to add more dowels, up until the point where you have 8 or 9 dowels, and only one that has your scent is the one that your dog can retrieve. And I did that, I think, for about a month, maybe 2 weeks to a month, something like that. I don't remember the exact amount of time. And I had it to the point where for 2 weeks, every single time I sent her to go retrieve my dowel, she would not grab any of the other ones. She would pick up the one that had my scent. And once I got to that point, then I would start doing it without the dowels being back tied. There are other ways of teaching it, but that's the technique that I used, and it worked really well. I may make a video on this in the future. You also asked about my hand touching the ball at the end. During the field search, I'm really not worried about the cross-contamination, because when I'm throwing the tennis ball, it's so far away from me that when my dog is finding the primary reinforcer, I'm not even close to the item, so it's not something that really affects the training. When I first did this, I would use just normal toys. I wouldn't even use the tennis balls, and I would handle the toy and throw it and play with my dog. And I was just creating that positive association with the odor and the primary reinforcer, which is the toy. Now, another question that people have been asking is whether or not they can reuse the tennis balls after the training has been completed. Yes, you can. So I put it back into the container, and what I like to do is I will go to a local coin laundry and I will wash the tennis balls at the coin laundry. Those washing machines and dryers tend to work a little bit better than the ones I have back at the house. They do a great job. They get most of the odor out. Once I have the balls, then I bring them back, I rescent the container, I place the balls back in the container, and I let them sit in there, and then I will use those again the next day. And we can do this however many days we feel necessary in order to get our dogs understanding that if they find that odor, they will find the primary reinforcer. How does this relate to the first scent detection lesson? Should we be using the same command search to indicate that we want the dog's nose in the box? So my second step in the scent detection training is just to create that positive association with the odor and the primary reinforcer. And it also gives us an opportunity to start teaching our dog the search command. We know if our dog enjoys toys that when we throw a tennis ball, our dog is going to go get it. So I can now use this as an opportunity to start teaching my dog the search command. So I say search, then I throw the ball. Now my dog is starting to understand when I say search, there's something for my dog to find. So when we go forward to step 3 and we say search, our dog will naturally respond to it because we've done these 2 steps before. So to answer your question, it helps create that positive association. It teaches the dog the command search that we use once we start having them search in the containers such as the cinder block, bucket, or box. Any tips on increasing the dog's ball drive? I talked about this in some of my other videos. It's an exercise that is known as drive building. You place your dog on a back tie. If I'm trying to increase my dog's tennis ball drive or ball drive, then I'm going to get a ball on a rope and I'm going to tease my dog with that while my dog's on a back tie. Once my dog shows enough interest, then I reward my dog with the toy. If my dog lets go of the toy, I pull it away and I tease the dog a little bit more. Teasing them with it is going to increase the frustration, which is going to increase the dog's drive. But that's the general idea. We use frustration, we use a back tie to tease the dog and then reward the dog when we see enough frustration, which will naturally increase the dog's drive. Is it possible to begin formal scent detection training when the dog is around 9 months, or should we wait till he's older? You can start scent detection training at a very early age. One of my good friends, he's a dog trainer with a police department and he does all the scent detection training, or he's the primary dog trainer with their unit, and he will start imprinting a puppy on scent detection training. When I went through the Tom Rose School for Professional Dog Trainers, my dog passed all the scent detection requirements when she was only 7 months of age. So she did a building search, a vehicle search, and a garage search. You can start them at a very young age and get really nice results. And if you imprint them on it, then they are going to be even better at scent detection when they get older. Is it better to teach a bunch of scents up front, like in a kit, or once you teach them one, can they easily learn the next scent? Yes, what a lot of dog trainers do is they'll do what's known as a cocktail. They'll have a bunch of odors together and they will teach the dog 5 odors at one time, and the dog is able to separate those odors when they smell. They won't smell one odor like we would. They would actually smell all 5 separate odors. So then when you separate them and the dog gets to now just one odor, they would still indicate if you did the training correctly. What I've always done was I will teach the dog one odor. Once we teach them one odor, it's very easy to teach them new odors. For example, one of the dogs that I trained, once she learned her first odor, I was able to teach her 4 new odors in one day because they understand the concept. And when they get to that new odor, they go, is this something that can give me a reward? And they indicate and you go, yes, that is something you can get a reward for. And they go, okay, great. And then they start to indicate on that odor. Now you're going to have to do a few reps to really increase that confidence, but it is very easy to add new odors when you have one odor taught to your dog. I hope everybody enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification bell. Also, in my description, there is a section where I have frequently asked questions, as well as links to things that I use in my videos, such as my training vest or treats that I train my dogs with. All right, thanks again, everybody, and I will see you in the next video.